The story begins in a dingy apartment where the air is heavy with cigarette smoke and muffled laughter seeps through thin walls. Behind the bathroom door, Everly crouches naked on cold tiles, her face wet with tears, her body marked by years of abuse. She's been held captive by Taiko, this authoritarian Yakuza boss with an absolutely ridiculous sense of entitlement, as if he owns not just her, but every atom of her will. Her hands shake as she lifts the lid of the toilet tank, pulling out a small plastic bag she has hidden for too long. Inside is a cell phone, a locket with the baby's photo, and a pistol that has not seen the light in months. She pulls out the phone first, desperate, her fingers stumbling as she dials a number she has memorized like a prayer. It rings and rings, but there is no voice on the other end. Only a machine, a voicemail greeting that offers no comfort. She whispers into it anyway, begging for help.
We are not home right now.
Her words are fast and terrified, and then she hangs up when footsteps thump closer down the hall. She hides the phone, picks up the trinket, and grabs the pistol, wiping her face quickly as the door handle rattles. The door gets busted open, and Everly doesn't hesitate to pull the trigger, giving the man a glorious exit. She steps out of the bathroom immediately and starts to show off her military skills and precision, sending the remaining 5 men to the far beyond. One of the men manages to put a hole in her stomach before passing away, breathing heavily but still active.
Down. Really?
She hears footsteps leading towards the door, so she aims the gun just in case.
Yeah.
A lady bursts in, sees the piles of bodies around, and runs out back. Everly hurries back to the bathroom to call the same number, but it still puts her on voicemail. She yells in the voicemail at Detective Robertson, the man who had promised he'd help her get out of the mess she's in, calling him selfish and crude for abandoning her at the time she needs him the most. She puts on the trinket. Suddenly, phones start to ring in sync. She gets flattered as she stumbles out. She's shocked to discover that the phones of the dead men are all ringing in creepy unison. She answers one, and on the other end is Taiko, the crime boss who owns her and the entire building.
What a surprise.
He praises her for putting up a good fight and tells her he left a present for her. She sees a large gift box on a counter and opens it. Inside lies the severed head of the same Detective Roberts she had been hoping for to save her. He makes it clear that her hopes for a slick escape are just a fallacy at this point.
If you ever loved me.
He threatens that for betraying him, he would take it out on her mother, Edith, and her young daughter, Maisie. Everly begs that he kill her instead and let them live, and Taiko agrees, but on the condition that Maisie would belong to him as well when she's all grown. Everly yells at him and hangs up out of anger. She dials her mother again and again, rips up kitchen floorboards to drag out a bag of cash she has been saving for years. When her mother picks, she tells her to grab Maisie and leave the house because some men are approaching, and they're not coming to chat or play chess.
You head down and hand the phone to Grandma.
Edith immediately obeys, and they are almost stopped by a bunch of strange men, but they manage to get to the car and drive off. She instructs them to head to a particular location in the town where she'd be coming to meet them. She grabs the cash, puts some shoes on, and heads to the door, where she's happily greeted by friendly shots from a shotgun. She retreats, regroups, and through a crack in the door, takes down the opponent in a single shot. Peeping through a hole in the walls leading to the next room, she sees Zelda, a fellow prostitute whose loyalty is still sold to the boss she betrayed, armed with a pair of gleaming saws. She comes screaming into the room. Zelda is fast, vicious, but reckless. Everly impales her with her own weapon and then takes her out with a pistol. A fellow prostitute steps in and tries to kill her, but gets shot by Elise. Another of them, who carelessly fires her gun. She then gets interrupted by a fifth person, who was also sent to kill Everly.
Sorry, sweetie.
The two of them get into a heated argument and end up shooting each other. The door creaks again, and another figure enters, but this time, it is not a killer. It is Anna, a woman from another floor, someone who has lived under Taiko's shadow too. She aims a gun at Everly too. At this point, Everly is tired of the aimless bloodshed. She casually tells Anna to look at the pile of dead bodies around.
I'm scared. I don't want to go down.
And that she can use her ribs as skipping rope handles for her daughter's next birthday gift if she wants. Anna looks around at the carnage and whistles low. Everly offers her a deal that she should not give her up for the next 2 hours, but after that, she is free to do whatever she wants.
Forget about them in time and they will be free.
Anna nods silently as she leaves, shaking her head at the wreckage. On a chair nearby, one of the men is still alive, though paralyzed from the gunshot wound Everly gave him. He groans, his eyes filled with pain and regret. He asks for water, which Everly gives to him immediately. For a moment, there is a strange peace between the two survivors in a sea of corpses. But the moment is shattered as more footsteps echo down the hall. Another guard storms in, firing, and Everly dives for cover. The paralyzed man calls out to the guard, distracting him long enough for Everly to put a bullet through his head. Sirens wail outside, and Everly dares to hope. But when the police arrive, she realizes too late that they are Taiko's men. They corral neighbors, pretend to secure the building.
Talk to God, I'm not interested in your confession.
Everly tries to sneak out of the apartment to meet up with her mother, but gets bundled like a Black Friday TV at Walmart and taken back to her room. The apartment has now become her fortress. The paralyzed man does the typical dying side character move and reveals his tragic backstory,
I am not giving up the car.
Forget about you.
explaining how he was also forced by Taiko into doing all the vile things he did, and that he had only done them out of fear. He advises her to burn the tapes they had recorded, as a way to get back at the Yakuza boss, and she does just that. She knows Taiko is tightening the noose,
Sanctuary sometimes reside.
and she also knows she cannot make it out of the apartment, at least not alive. She calls her mother again, her voice low and urgent, telling her where to come to her as she gives her the apartment address. She also asks her to abandon her car because it's probably being tracked.
And Hopper Avenue.
I am afraid.
Everly tells her to call her when she's close so she can guide her on exactly what to do.
I am not
Edith
giving up the car.
hesitates, but eventually agrees. Ignoring the fact that she still has a bullet lodged in her stomach, Everly proceeds to clean up in expectation of her company. She drags the bodies of the dead men and women in her room to different hidden locations. Some to the bathroom, and the others under the wooden floorboards in the apartment. She takes a shower, treats her wound, and changes into a different set of clothes. Leaving the paralyzed man on the chair, she covers his wound with a white cloth. Shortly after, her mum rings her up to say that she's already in the building, and Everly guides her through, telling her what exactly to say to the guards to be given a pass in. While Edith makes her way up to Everly's room, she watches her through a screen in her room, connected to the surveillance cameras. She sees another thug advancing towards her room to cause some trouble. So she creeps into the hallway with Zelda's sai in her hand and lies in wait for him. The moment the elevator doors open, she lunges, stabbing the sai deep into the thug's gut before he can react. The man fights back for a bit, but ends up collapsing after a futile moment of struggle. She returns to the room and sees Edith, her mother clutching her Maisie, her granddaughter's hand tight, both of them wide-eyed with fear. For a moment, the world falls away. Everly feels tears sting her eyes, but there is no time for tenderness. She instructs Edith to take the money and just go, but Edith is not going to leave just like that. Everly had suddenly ghosted them like a black American dad years ago, and she's hell-bent on not leaving until she gets an explanation. Everly rushes them inside, slamming the door shut behind them,
Hush, no right now.
and begins barking orders. Edith protests, demanding answers,
Keep an eye on her.
but Everly pulls her into the bathroom and finally tells her the truth. She explains how Taiko took her years ago, how she was forced into this life, how she never escaped until tonight. Her voice cracks, but she keeps it steady, because Maisie is probably listening through the thin walls. Edith listens in silence, her face tight with horror and sorrow, and when Everly finishes, they share a brief, broken hug before pulling themselves together. Out in the living room, the paralyzed man stares at Maisie and tries to keep the toddler company. In a strange gesture of kindness, he begins reciting a nursery rhyme to keep her distracted. The more he sings, the more he feels his life slipping away. But he just can't let her stray into the room on her own and discover the pile of bodies her mother had hidden, or anything else. He passes out for a moment, and by the time he wakes up, he is shocked to see that Maisie has somehow happened to find the box that was delivered to Everly. He uses all his energy to urge her not to open it. Everly hears his last cry and immediately rushes out just in time to stop her from developing a lifetime trauma.
I'm sorry.
The man's breathing grows shallow, his head falls back, and his chest stops moving. Everly whispers a soft goodbye and covers his body, knowing he gave her daughter one last moment of innocence before the nightmare closed back in. The sound of barking jolts them. A thug has brought a vicious dog to them, and Maisie, curious, drifts toward it.
Maisie?
Everly lunges after her to drag her back, but the thug sets the mutt loose at them. Everly manages to grab Maisie back into the room, but the dog bursts into the room as well. It pounces, teeth snapping, but instead of biting them, it sinks its jaws into the corpse of the paralyzed man who had just passed. The handler outside yells for it, and Everly reacts instantly. She grabs a grenade, yanks the pin, and hurls it through the doorway. The dog, loyal and eager, chases it back out. A muffled explosion follows, shaking the floor.
It's okay, you can come out.
She checks the security cameras and finds out that a group of men is approaching, so she does the safest thing by taking her mother and daughter to Anna's apartment, while she waits in the hallway to ambush the men approaching through the elevator. The elevator dings again, and another squad of Taiko's men tries to pour out, weapons ready. Everly acts first, firing a shotgun at the front man, pushing not only him, but all the rest of the men further into the elevator from the force. Next, she tosses a grenade straight into the elevator, just as it closes. The explosion rattles the shaft, smoke belching through the seams, making it really obvious that the men inside are nothing but wreckage. Returning to her room, she notices a presence approaching through the security cameras, and knows it's not going to be anything nice for her. Her fears are confirmed when the sadist arrives. He is a tall, old Japanese man in a pristine white suit, flanked by masked henchmen, and dragging with him a hulking brute they call the masochist. The masochist gets set loose on Everly, and despite how many shots she fires, he doesn't stop until it pins her down. The men then easily seize Everly, binding her wrists and locking her in a cage, with her hands suspended and tied. The sadist smiles with cold delight, unpacking jars and bottles filled with acids and gasoline. He toys with her, dripping harmless water onto her skin to make her flinch, whispering about how he will dissolve her slowly, piece by piece. Next, he grabs a serum of sodium hydroxide, which he uses to toy with her. He puts some drops on the ropes holding her hands, to show her how dangerous it is. Then he applies some to her lap, making her scream in pain. Edith can't stand the screams of her daughter from the next room, so she charges in with a gun and manages to take one of the men down before getting smacked to the ground. The sadist drags Edith forward, forcing her to drink gasoline as Everly screams from where she's being restrained. The sadist promises to make Everly watch her own mother die. But Everly has been waiting. The ropes are weakened by the acid he carelessly splashed earlier, and with a desperate yank, she tears free. She seizes a fallen gun and opens fire, killing his henchman in a storm of bullets. She puts a bullet through the sadist, too. But you know the bad guys don't always die quick. While she rushes over to her mom and tries to get her to vomit whatever quantity of the poisonous substance she must have swallowed, he sneaks up behind her and knocks her down. He pulls out a slim, long sword from his cane and tries to stab Edith with it, but Everly forces a bottle of acid down his throat, making him choke on his own cruelty until his body convulses and collapses. The sight alone makes Edith retch violently and vomit the gasoline and her guts immediately. Tycho himself is watching from across the street now, perched with a sniper rifle. He calls Everly and does the necessary rage bait precaution, telling her to check up on her mother as he takes aim and fires, the bullet tearing into Edith's chest. She gasps and collapses into Everly's arms. Everly screams, cradling her mother's now lifeless body. Rage surges through her, and she grabs the machine gun hidden in the oven, stepping to the window and unleashing a storm of bullets across the street. Tycho's sniper answers by firing a bazooka directly into the apartment. The explosion rips through the walls, throwing Everly to the ground. Tycho, furious with what the sniper did, executes him in anger. The building groans, and suddenly, smoke grenades shatter the windows. A SWAT team, which works for Tycho, storms in, rappelling down ropes, weapons flashing. Everly crawls under the floorboards, shooting through cracks and moving like a predator in the jungle, until the men above collapse one by one. She crawls forward, covered in dust and blood, fighting like a trapped animal. One man falls screaming out the window, another drops dead with his throat slit, but eventually sheer numbers overwhelm her. One manages to put a bullet in her shoulder, and she falls down. They drag her back to the bed as the final boss, Aura, farms his way to her. Tycho, immaculate in his neatly tailored suit, places a noose around her neck and pulls it tight, lifting her onto her knees. He waves the others away, wanting to savor this himself. He traces a blade across her skin, whispering about ownership, about punishment, about how she belongs to him even now. But Everly is not ready to be his property anymore. She lashes out at him, upsetting the big guy. He tells her as punishment, he'll be taking his tattoo from her back as a souvenir. He brings out a dagger and tries to skin her with it, but she finds a shard of glass and stabs him with it. Next, she shocks him with the taser she grabbed from the sadist earlier. She aims a gun at him,
Maisie will never be safe.
but also tosses him his dagger, asking him to end his life honorably. He stumbles back, furious, swinging it at her. The dagger lands in her shoulder. In a turn of events, she grabs his sword and drives it straight through his chest. Tycho gasps, the arrogance draining from his face, and collapses at her feet. But the fight is not over. The masochist, somehow still alive, lumbers into Anna's apartment. Thankfully, she had hidden Maisie in a closet. She's in the middle of calling the cops when he takes her out easily and leaves, looking for his next victim. Maisie crawls out of the closet and leaves the apartment in search of her grandmother right after the masochist. He sees her and tries to make a move, but Everly, barely able to stand, has crawled up to the hallway. She raises her pistol with trembling hands and fires a bullet straight into his forehead. This time, the masochist crashes to the ground, finally dead for good. Everly beckons to Maisie to come to her, pulls her into her arms, and shows her the locket. She tells her to hold on to it and to never forget her. She passes out immediately on her daughter's lap. Sirens wail again, but this time they are real. Police and medics flood the apartment, dragging Taiko's remaining men away and pulling Maisie to safety. A medic kneels beside her, checking for a pulse, shaking his head at first, and then suddenly a faint blip appears on the monitor. Everly breathes, against all odds. The nightmare is finally over. The end. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.